Hello and welcome back to Born to Rant. I'm Brandon, and this week we are taking a trip back to the time of King Arthur. But don't worry, we're bringing rock and roll, roller skates, and Big Macs with us. That's right, today we are taking a look at 1995's A Kid in King Arthur's Court, directed by Michael Gottlieb and starring a shockingly stacked cast that includes Ian Nicolas, Ackland, Paloma Beeza, and freaking Kate Winslet and James Bond himself, Daniel Craig. We'll take a look at the movie's Mark Twain inspired origins, how it all came together, everything that makes the movie still worth watching today, and its legacy over 30 years later. Now, this is a movie that was just kind of in my VHS library growing up. It wasn't one that I watched every day or even hundreds of times, but I mean, still probably dozens of times. But I hadn't really thought to revisit this movie until a couple of months ago when I was looking at what movies I should maybe cover on the channel next. And look, I can't lie to you guys, it actually took me 2 attempts to get through this movie. It's not that the movie is unwatchable or anything, but it does rely on the same joke setup over and over again, and it really wore me down on that initial viewing. Basically, the premise is Calvin will say a modern thing.
You want me comfortable? How about getting me a roadmap out of the Middle Ages?
People will react, and then he'll say another modern thing that just further confuses them.
If I don't get home, I'm grounded.
And they pulled this setup out quite a bit. But when I sat down to watch it again for this video, I went in remembering that the movie is pretty silly and just kind of knowing what I was in for. And honestly, going into it the second time and turning my brain off, I had a really great time revisiting this movie. The one thing that really stood out to me was the production design by Laszlo Gardani. Guys, I am so sorry if I mispronounced that one. I promise I did my best. But anyway, this movie does kind of look cheap, but it's the cheapness that really gives it its charm. Like, the entire movie kind of feels like we're watching the most generic Arthurian set design of all time, but there's just an undeniable charm that comes along with that. Like, I'd love to just hang out here on these sets. It's also just really fun seeing both Daniel Craig and Kate Winslet both show up on screen. But anyway, before I start getting too deep into everything that makes A Kid in King Arthur's Court still worth watching today, let's go back in time and learn just a little bit more about how this movie came to be. And it all begins with Mark Twain. Well, kinda. Even though it's widely accepted that this movie is based on a Yankee in King Arthur's Court, Twain isn't listed as having any credit on the movie, and unfortunately, this is yet another movie that was really difficult to do research on. There's just not much out there about the making of this movie. Like, I don't even know if Michael Part and Robert Levy, who wrote the script, were hired to write it, or if they wrote the script on spec and sold it to Disney. I do know that Michael Gottlieb was hired to direct, and this would be his 5th and final movie as a director, and then he would move on to work in the video games industry until his tragic passing in 2014. As for the casting, our boy Ian Nicolas did say in an interview that I watched for this video that he had to audition for this movie, but that he'd heard through the grapevine that he was always the #1 choice because Disney already knew he looked good in a baseball uniform because he'd already played Rosenberger in Rookie of the Year. As for Daniel Craig and Kate Winslet, I mean, these two were as much of nobodies as anyone else on the set. Well, I mean, Kate Winslet had already shot Heavenly Creatures, but I don't think it had quite come out yet, and obviously she was still a couple years away from Titanic. There are also rumors that Winslet was constantly being nagged about her weight by producers and became physically sick, but I couldn't find a quote of her saying that directly, though it obviously wouldn't surprise me. And I have to imagine that Ackland was hired because he already had a good relationship with Disney after doing The Mighty Ducks. So with a $15 million budget, A Kid in King Arthur's Court went into production on September 14th, 1994, and production would last until mid-December, with most of the filming taking place in Hungary. Well, really everything shot in the past was shot in Hungary. Anything set in the present was actually shot in London at an American high school there, which was something I was not aware existed, but I guess it makes sense. Anyway, on August 11th, 1995, A Kid in King Arthur's Court was released into theaters where it would make just $4.3 million and place 9th at the box office. And though it failed to make a splash at the box office, it would quietly go on to become a cult favorite, but more on the legacy in just a minute. Apologies for the interruption, but I wanted to jump in and let you know that today's video is brought to you by the members of the Born to Rant Patreon and our channel members here on YouTube. I truly could not make these videos without your guys' support, and if you've ever been curious about joining, now is a great time to check it out, because I've set all tiers on both platforms to be free for a trial period. Members get early access to videos, access to exclusive videos like these two, and one coming on Willow in another week or two. So if you've ever been curious to join as a member, you can find a link to the Patreon Patreon in the description below, or you can join as a channel member by clicking this button right beneath the video. But even if joining as a member isn't really your thing, you just watching this video is more than I could ever ask for. But if you could either like the video or subscribe to the channel, it would really help me out. And with all of that out of the way, I think it's time for us to dive into everything that makes A Kid in King Arthur's Court still worth watching today.
That's right, lad. I am King Arthur.
Cool.
So the first thing that immediately jumped out to me when I put this movie on was that it both looks kinda bad and cheap, but also incredible. Like, Elmer Regali's cinematography has some nice, rich, earthy tones, and it focuses a lot on using candle and firelight. Like, we can even see the wax dripping from candles in several scenes. But there are also a couple of moments where I feel like the movie looked a little more like a TV movie than one that had been theatrically released. There are some really beautiful shots in this movie though, like this, and also this moment, but I think largely the thing that I was impressed with is that this movie isn't trying to be anything more than a kid's movie about a boy stuck in Camelot. And like I said earlier, the production design by Laszlo Gardani has some real charm to it. It kind of feels like a set for a play, but with just a little extra detail. Like, I love how much of this movie leans into using candles to help light the scene. As for the story, it's pretty straightforward. We've got our main hero, Calvin Fuller, who really acts a lot like Henry from the first half of Rookie of the Year. I mean, and during his baseball game, there's an earthquake which causes him to time travel to the time of Arthurian legend. Once there, he meets King Arthur, his two daughters, Sarah and Katie, and the king's right-hand man, Lord Belasco, played by Art Malik, aka the bad guy from True Lies. Man, I haven't seen True Lies in forever. Would you guys watch a video on True Lies? Let me know in the comments.
All right, Twinkle Toes, what's your exit strategy?
I'm gonna walk right out of the front gate.
Ballsy. Stupid, but ballsy.
So, Lord Belasco has a plan to marry the older sister, played by Kate Winslet, and take over Camelot. However, she doesn't want to marry him, so instead she's insisting there be a tournament thrown, and whoever wins will just get to marry her. But secretly, she and Daniel Craig are dating, but no one can know because of royal rules, etc. Oh, there's also this Black Knight character riding around, and at first we think they're a bad guy, but surprise, surprise, it ends up being Princess Sarah in the end. Honestly, the Black Knight is such a cool concept, and one that I wish the movie explored just a little bit more, but really they only pop up 3 times. And Calvin's role in all of this is to stop Belasco and return Camelot to its former glory, and then Merlin will be able to send him home. Also, I do love the bit of Merlin not believing that this is the night that he summoned, and Calvin's response is genuinely sad, if not a little corny.
Oh, I get it. This is all a big mistake. That's okay. Everybody picks me last.
But what really makes this movie worth watching overall are the silly bits it tries to pull off of Calvin introducing things from the future to Princess Katie, and Princess Katie and Master Kane here teaching Calvin to become a knight. It's Calvin using his CD player to blast what sounds like a bootleg Rage Against the Machine riff.
Here goes.
And it's Calvin moshing in doing karate in his bedroom and making both roller skates and a bike for Princess Katie. And side note, I actually think that Barry Stanton might be the most underrated actor in this movie as the blacksmith. Like, he doesn't get any big moments to shine or anything, but I love his genuine fascination with the designs being brought to him. But anyway, Calvin and Katie flirting, going on dates, and training makes up a huge chunk of this movie's running time. One of my favorites is when Calvin can't take the food anymore and insists on cooking for her, and he makes
Double cheeseburger, lettuce and tomato, and a whole wheat bun. Big Mac.
But everyone knows that a Big Mac is
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions on a sesame seed bun.
You know what word I didn't hear in that sentence? Tomatoes. So some of the other highlights include Calvin supergluing himself to his saddle and then getting stuck to a tree, him kicking Lord Belasco in the balls, him chewing bubblegum with Arthur, and again, just a big shout out to Joss Ackland as King Arthur. I think he's actually great in this movie as an out-of-touch king that used to be a great warrior. But the real plot of the movie comes into play once Lord Belasco has accepted he'll never get to marry Princess Sarah because she refuses to marry him, and he'll never enter the tournament because he's terrified.
You are planning to enter the tournament.
You're a complete idiot. Do you think I want to die?
So instead, his plan is to kidnap Katie to blackmail Sarah into marrying him. He also tells everyone that Katie is already dead and that Calvin killed her. Unfortunately for Belasco, Calvin and Arthur team up just in the nick of time, and we get a really fun chase through Camelot and the castle, and Calvin gives Arthur Excalibur. Also, I wish I could have used my portable CD player as a laser pointer. And I actually really love that the movie doesn't have Belasco be fully taken down at this point. Like, he's even allowed to enter the final tournament, which Arthur makes open to everyone. So that means that James Bond here, who's in love with Sarah, can enter the tournament to possibly be able to marry her. And he does make it pretty far, but unfortunately for him, Belasco has entered this competition he was terrified of and is cheating to win match after match, and he ends up knocking out Kane, so Calvin takes his place, and we get this great bit of his head appearing to have been knocked off. And at the end of the day, Belasco is defeated, Sarah is revealed to be the Black Knight, she and Kane get to be together, and Calvin gets to go home, although he's sad to be leaving both Katie and Arthur behind. But what's this? Once he's back home, the earthquake hasn't happened, so instead of striking out, this time Calvin hits a home run, and it's revealed that somehow Katie is now on his team, and Arthur's hanging out in the bleachers whittling away. And the movie ends with Merlin catching the home run and saying,
"Taught the kid everything he knows."
So, over 30 years later, what is the legacy of A Kid in King Arthur's Court? Well, to me, it feels like one of the more forgotten Disney VHS staples of the 90s. Like, when Thomas Ian Nicolas comes up, this is probably the third movie people think of him being in, with the first two, of course, being Rookie of the Year and American Pie. That being said, this movie is available to stream on Disney+, so it's not buried like some other 90s Disney VHS staples like The Jungle Book, which I talked about like a year ago. Go check it out if you haven't. And yes, in 1998, a sequel titled A Kid in Aladdin's Palace was released straight to video by Trimark Pictures without the assistance of Disney at all. And I did see this movie maybe once or twice as a kid, and I straight up remember almost nothing about it aside from its trailer. But hey, if you guys want to see me talk about the sequel, please sound off in the comments. And let me know, what's your relationship with A Kid in King Arthur's Court? When was the last time you sat down and watched it all the way through? Are you also still mad that he put tomatoes on a Big Mac? If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for watching, and as always, an extra special thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon and my channel members here on YouTube. I truly couldn't do it without your support. Don't forget that members get early access to videos and access to exclusive videos like these two. Don't forget that Born to Rant is a completely independent channel, and I use absolutely no AI in the making of my videos. And if that means anything to you at all, your support would mean the world. And that's going to do it for Born to Rant this week. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.